Hi everybody, hope you're having a great day today. I am working on an applique project. This is the Little Quilt Squared calendar series, and it's April, so I wanted to get this done. This is a design from the Wooden Bear company here, and it's got the website on there, if you can see that. Now, what I like about this is this came with a sheet that lists all the colors. And what I've done is I've gone through and I've tagged all the colors, all the fabric sheets in here. So I know which ones are which, and they correspond to what is on this sheet. Now, I'm going to be using Steam a Seam 2, and it came with sheets like this, so it would be very easy for me to go ahead and trace. Hey, I found this. Okay, I thought I'd lost this piece of fabric, so I'll have to switch that one out. So your design is all on here, and what I'm going to do is take my sheets and then trace the designs on here. Okay, and I will do a time lapse of that because I don't think you really want to see me tracing it all. And one of the things I do is I will write the corresponding letter on here so that I know where it goes. Okay, because sometimes you get two things that are the same, but they may be different fabrics, just like this one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll time lapse it through, okay? Okay, so what I've done is I've traced all the patterns from here, okay? Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these out and then match them to the fabrics that were in the kit. And we will go from there, okay? Okay, so I've got all my pattern cut out, and then what I'm going to do is I will take it over to my ironing station, and we will iron these on the fabric, okay? We'll get them on the fabric, and then I will cut those out. And I will double check before I do it to make sure that I have everything where it needs to be, okay? These colors right here are going to be for the background of the pattern right here, okay, as you can see here. So I will also cut these out too, okay? So we'll be back. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron all my fabric now, and I'm also, once I get pieces ironed, I'm going to start ironing on the design. Okay, so I have the quilting part, the back of the quilt, which is going to be the background of the bunny. And I have all three of the colors here. Now, the squares are going to be 4.5 by 4.5. So what I want to do is I have all the colors here. I'm going to go ahead and get my ruler lined up here, because I'm going to go ahead and just cut. And we'll do it a little bit upward just so we can make sure we get everything in there. And then, of course, I need a rotary cutter. So we're going to double check before I start cutting to make sure that I have it right. That's 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. We'll go ahead and cut this side. Okay. Then we can come over here, and that's going to be straight there. And we'll go ahead and cut this side. That's 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. That way everything's nice and straight. Okay, and then each one of these is going to be 4.5. So we're going to go ahead and we'll start here. Let me get my smaller one. We're going to trim them up. So it's nice and straight. Make sure they're all, yep. All right, so now we're going to do 4.5. 4.5 blocks. And I guess we could go from this end. Nope, I'm going to do it this way. And I always double checked. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. There we go. Okay, so we have our blocks, and we will take these over to the machine and sew them up in a bit. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get all of these cut out. And we will time lapse that because that will be a little bit. I can get rid of my scraps. Okay, so I have all my pieces cut out, and what I'm going to do next is I will go to the sewing machine so that I can sew, and I stuck all my tiny little beaks on the sticky paper so I wouldn't lose them. Okay, I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I will sew these together, and we will cut out the back of, with this fabric, this is going to be the backing of the actual quilt, and I also have my batting. Okay, so you're going to need batting, backing, and then we'll be ready to go. All right, so let's head on over to the sewing machine. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to sew our blocks together. This is going to be our background fabric for the applique. Now, I've actually marked my blocks so I know which row they go and which one. So you see here, this is the first block, and then I'm going to have, this will be the second one, and then this will be the third one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew those together. Remember, right sides together. And those will be pretty easy to do. So we'll have a 9-block patch. And I'm just using my 97D foot. This is a Bernina 770 Quilter's Edition. I'm just using a regular straight stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and I've got my foot down. Very easy to put down. Okay. All right, so we're going to get this going. And we're going to sew these blocks. And it'll just be a 1/4 inch stitch. Now, what you can do is, I've got my 3rd block here, but what I'm going to go ahead and do is start the 2nd row. And the reason why is because that way I can go ahead and chain stitch these and get them through. So I'll be leaving the 3rd block off for now. Wait, I think I just messed that up. Hang on a second. 1 and 2. This will be 3 and 1 and 3 and 2. Nope, I did it right. And I just cut it, so we'll just continue. Everybody makes mistakes, but you learn from them real quick. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the first one that I did, bring it back around. That way I don't have to rethread anything. And we'll put that first one on here. And it's just continuously chain stitching here. And I can keep going. And then I'll grab the second one. And this has helped me so that I can keep it straight. Put the third, this will be the 3rd one. And then we've got our last one, so we have to cut that one off. And we will put on the last one. I'll just back stitch this one a little bit, and then I can cut it. So I've got my rows done. They're all chain stitched together, but all the rows, whoops, get my arm out of the way. all the rows are finished, and I'm going to take it over to the ironing, and I'm going to go ahead and iron these all out so that we can sew all of them together. Okay? Okay, so I have all my rows sewn together. I can take this off now. And I have all my little sticky papers. Excuse me. I have all my rows sewn together. Now what I've done is I've matched up the corners, and that's why I like keeping it attached, so I know which row goes where, and then I can go ahead and pin it and then just sew it. And I've matched up the corners here, so I've got one row laying one way and the other row laying in the opposite direction, so I can get those corners nice and tight in there. So I can go ahead and sew those in now. And sometimes I like to just backstitch if I don't catch it right on the edge. And as I get close to the seam, I just double check when I take out my pin that I am right in that one spot so that those seams match up. And you can use your pin to kind of scoot it in there. If it's not, it should feel nice and flat when you do it. That way you know it's in there. If you feel a hump, you might want to check to make sure that you've got it nice and flat. I need my needle to come up. There we go. I kind of got the bottom part messed up there, but we can fix that. The ultimate seam ripper. There we go. Not quite sure what happened there, but we'll cut those threads off. I usually wait to the end to cut my threads off, but that was kind of bulky. Okay, so now we're going to do the other side. Match everything up. And since I have my bobbin thread out, I usually just hold it. It's not a big deal. I don't worry about the edges because they're going to be buried anyways in the quilt. Now we've come to a seam, so we need to make sure that that is matched up in there and it feels nice and flat. Because you want to be able to nest those seams. And it'll make it much easier to iron when you're finished. Okay, so here we go. We're at the end. And while I'm at the sewing machine, I'm going to go ahead and I also cut out the binding for this. Okay, so I am, and I'm going to leave a little tail. Okay, so now I have my 9 patch done, okay, and this is where, this is the backing for the applique, okay. we'll take that to the ironing. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get that binding going. Now, I always have issues with binding, but it's one of those things you just got to deal with. So with the binding, I'm going to go ahead and cross these over at the top, just like that. And then we will sew it down just like from this corner down to this corner, okay? And I always double check when I do it because sometimes it just ends up crooked. All right, so let's see if we can get this in here. You have to be very precise. Okay. I usually don't draw on it, but try and keep it nice and straight. Handy dandy cutter on the side. All right, well, this binding actually worked. So it's going to be nice and straight on there. And we are going to go over to the ironing board and then we'll continue with the applique. Okay. Okay, so I have, this is my backing fabric, and I've got my 9 patch and I've got my batting. Now, the backing fabric is going to have enough fabric at the end because we're going to put this up here so that we have enough to make a holder in the back on the back of the quilted part, okay? So I'm going to move this over because the backing fabric's not straight. That way I have enough. And now that I have this in here, and I think we're going to turn it this way, just for the heck of it. I'm not going to go right to the edges. And I've got a 12-inch ruler because that's where it's going to end up. So we're going to do this right in the middle. That way we get, because it's a little bit bigger than 12 inches. And this ruler is 12 inches around. So we're going to put it right in the middle there so it's even. There we go. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. Okay, so this bottom part is going to be used for the holder on the back. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. If you're going to quilt around on here, you need to do that now, okay? And all I do is I go ahead and I quilt in the lines, right in the seams, so that it doesn't take away from the applique. And what I will also do is I will do little stitching on the outside just to hold all that together. Once I am finished with that, I will also do, because we are using this for the holder in the back, flip this over. and I'll iron this down one more time, is I'm going to do it a little bit smaller than the actual quilt, so you have lines, and I usually cut it, I'll put it right up to the top, and I'll cut it about probably a 1/2 inch smaller, okay, because I will tuck these ends in. So let's get this down here. So I just want to do it a 1/2 inch smaller. There we go. We'll line it up with the lines on my mat. And it'll be right there. We'll go ahead and cut that. And then when I put it on here, what I want to do is I will, when I do my little stitching around the edges, I'll fold this up, but I'm going to fold it up in such a way that when it hangs, it'll hang even, okay? Because you don't want to, you're going to sew this on here at the top, but you want it to be able to hang in a way where it's not like pulling up your whole design, okay? So we're going to take that over to the machine and sew this, and then we will do our lines in between here, okay? Okay, so I've taken the piece of fabric, this is going to be the holder for the back, and what I've done is I've actually folded over the edges and sewn those down, and then I folded it in half and sewed it across the back, okay? This gives it a very clean look. So I'm going to turn this back right side out. And I may run over to the iron real quick, but I think it'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over, and we are going to sew, stitch in the ditch between the seams. Now, I'm going to change my foot because I do have another foot that I can use. And it'll be easier to stay in that ditch, so to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the 10D foot. And we're going to move this over so you can see better. Okay, I'm going to bring up my guide there. And the foot is going to slide on out. So my foot is in. I can just slide it in there. So I'm going to go ahead right now, and I'm just using a straight seam, and we're going to stitch in the ditch. Oops, forgot to put this down, so let's put this back down. All right, here we go. Now, I kind of spread the seams out a little just so that it'll get in there. And it takes a little getting used to. And I'm not perfect, so... And I've got matching thread on the top and the bottom. And most of this you won't see anyways because it will be covered up by the applique. And then I'm just going to bring it back down and start on the other side. And these are really simple to do. I think I have one for every month, but I haven't done them all. But I am going to get this one done, just because I need to start getting a lot of my UFO projects finished. And I just haven't had the time. And like I said, most of the stitching is going to be covered up with the applique. There we go. I don't want those extra strings in there. Now, I would go much faster than this normally, but I'm trying to keep it right in that ditch. And then we'll bring it over, and this will be the last side here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my foot back. And you can see that there. Very easy to change out the feet on this Bernina. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to bring this in. And remember, this is the holder part. I'm going to put this in, and I have about 3/4 of an inch on each side, but I want to get that sewn in now. So we will actually put a few pins in here. Because this is almost finished. Okay. So I'm going to start as soon as I back it up a little. Start on this side, and we're going to do it probably about 1/8 of an inch. And this is just so that everything stays together. I am right on the inside edge of my foot, and this will be covered up with the binding, okay? And then we'll switch it. And I keep forgetting to put my foot down. Now we're on the foot. Okay. Hang on one second. Let's make sure that we are not on the actual foot. There we go. Okay. We have to pull it out and start it again. All right. There we go. That's much better. All right. I always forget to put that foot down. It just happens. Okay, then we'll switcheroo. Now, when we get to the top, okay, this is going to be our holder right here. You want to make sure that you get that in there. It's going to be a little bit thick, so you may need something to push it down so that you get right on top of it. There we go. And I don't sew over pins. That is one thing I just don't do. So I always make sure to take my pins out. Before I sew. I don't talk much when I sew either, but that's okay. I do cut strings as I see them. And then I just sew right off the side. All right, so our quilt back is done, and we've got our holder on also, okay? So now we're gonna go over, and this is where the fun part starts, because we're gonna put the applique on. All right. Okay, so now this is the fun part. This is like putting together a giant puzzle. Okay, so we have our grass at the bottom, and the best thing to do is follow the instructions on the instruction sheet. If you see dotted lines, that means that it's going to be the under piece. And what I mean by that is, let's look at this ear right here. Okay, it's got two pieces, and oops, you can see it. There you go. We'll look at the ear right here. It's got two pieces. Okay, this is going to be pink in the middle, and you see the dotted lines. Okay, so the dotted lines are going to be, this pink piece is going to be under the gray piece. Okay, that's what the dotted lines are for, is this pink piece right here. All right, so we have one of the ears, and if I'm following instructions, I already found one of my mistakes, and that was with the other ear, which should be going this way, but I cut it the wrong way. It's okay though, because it figured it out. We're just gonna switch sides for the ears, okay? So if you make a mistake, you should be able to just do it the other way, okay? Now, these pieces will be under, let's see, these pieces will be under here. So we have that, we have our grass. Now, what I'm gonna put in here is his neck piece, and I always have the instructions right here so I can see where the pieces go. The neck piece is going to be under the grass, like this, and it's right in between these two, okay? Next, we'll put on, this is his face, so we're going to put that right here. We can move it up just a little. All right, this is his head, which his head is going to go under the face, just like that. We have his little nose, so we'll put that there. And I can't tell by the picture whether it goes under it or not, but I'm thinking it stays on top. We've got his 2 feet, so those are going to go on top of the grass, just like that. We've got his ears, so we're just going to go ahead and move this ear down. It worked out pretty good that I messed up the ear, but I'll be able to get it. So he's going to have a floppy ear on the other side instead of the way the instructions go. We're going to stick this other ear in here. Just like that, okay? And then we've got our little chickens, little chickadees that we can put here and here. I'm missing a chicken. We'll find him. So the little chicken can be springing off his head. And the little chickens all have little wings. So we'll put those in there. I think I have one more wing. And then we have our little chicken's noses, which those are those tiny little pieces. So we'll put those in here. And the biggest thing is once you get this set, you're gonna have to go back through and peel off all the backing. So we're just gonna go ahead and get it set for now. You can see how it's taking shape. And those are all the pieces. That's all the pieces. I don't have any pieces left. Okay. So that's what it's going to look like when we're finished. Well, almost when we're finished. Because we'll still have to do the border. And then it'll be really cool. Now, I have little buttons for the eyes, but I don't use those small buttons. Okay. And I will show you what I use. The first thing I'm going to do though is what you have to do now is you are going to have to go through each of these and peel off the backing. Okay. And let's see if I can get the backing off. There you go. Got it. So once you get the backing off, it's going to be kind of sticky. So let's get this little chick the way it needs to go. His nose. And then we're going to put his little wing right there. Okay, now that's going to stick. All right. So once you get it there, go through, pull off all the backings, get them placed. Now, this will still come off. It will come off until you iron it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get everything peeled off and put back in place. Okay? Okay. So once you get the paper off and you go ahead and you put all of your design on your quilt blocks, this is what it's going to look like. Now, right now is the time that if you don't like where something is at, you need to change it, okay? Take, for instance, I want to move this chickie maybe a little bit over here, but I noticed that this ear needs to come over just a little bit more so it covers up part of the other ear, or part of this ear. Now is the time to change it, because once you iron it, it's going to be stuck and you're not going to be able to get it undone. Okay, so once you have everything in the position that you want it, all right, let me move this back up here so you can see it. This is where you're going to use an applique sheet, or like I have a Teflon sheet, and this is where you're going to go ahead and iron. Now, the reason why you need to put something on here is because of the fact that if you have any of the seam to seam sticking out, you don't want it to stick to your iron. So if you use the Teflon sheet, it'll keep that from happening. So I'm happy with the way everything is, and I've changed the wings on the little chickies. Okay, I think they look better with the points going in the other direction. I've got their beaks on. This beak, I think, is facing the wrong way. Well, we'll go ahead and redo his beak. So now's the time to change anything that you want where you can still lift the stuff up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to iron this, and you only need to hold it down for like 20 seconds. Okay, I can watch it on my watch for 20 seconds. Whoops. And then just iron all your pieces. And it's really easy to do. And you can go ahead, once you get it done, make a decision. Do you want to add anything else as far as stitching goes? I like doing them and then taking them to the machine and outlining the items on here, like the bunny and its ears. So I'm probably going to do that. And you want to do that before you put the binding on. Have all your sewing done before you get that binding on. And then it'll be ready to go. So we're almost done. And my iron is really hot, so this helps as far as holding everything for 20 seconds. I'm just going to go through here again. And I like working with the Teflon sheets. And you can use them in your hoops. I'll post a video after this one showing you how to make them fit inside your embroidery hoops. And they come in real handy. And I've cut them to different sizes and use them for different hoops that I do for embroidery. All right, so that should be pretty good. And you can always come back over with the iron if you find you've got a piece that's just sticking up or it didn't get tacked down. So there we've got it. We've ironed them all on there. Now I'll let it cool down a little bit because it is kind of hot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and I'm going to add my own twist to it. Okay, as far as maybe outlining with a satin stitch around the bunny and around the chicks. We do have, they did give us little buttons for the eyes, okay? But I don't use buttons for the eyes. I use something else. So go ahead and iron it down, and then you can, I'll show you what I add on my own to make this personalized, okay? Okay, so if you decide that you want to go ahead and add some thread around your bunny, here's one thing that you need to remember to do. Remember, we've already put our holder on the back, and look what I just did. I sewed the holder down to the thing. Now, it would still work, okay, because I only need the top. So it's going to be okay. But just remember that if you go up any higher, you're not going to be able to do it. So be careful that you're not sewing the holder onto the back of your little quilt. All right. So because I need to do something else with the holder, I'm going to end up taking this part out so that I can lift the holder up and pin it off to the side so I won't be sewing on it. All right, well, get back to it. Okay, so what I've done is I've outlined with a satin stitch the chicks. I gave the chicks legs. I outlined around the bunny and his ears with a satin stitch, his nose, and his paws, okay? And that's just my kind of customization of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the binding on, so we'll be right back. Okay, so I have finished accessorizing my bunny here with his little chicks, and I think he pops out a little bit more having the satin stitches around everything and the little chicks and around their rings. Now, I want to show you how I did the back where it's going to hang, okay? Originally, this is how your hanging sleeve is going to be. And what I've done is I've actually pulled it up to the binding, okay? I'll do that again. I pull it up to the binding, just like that, and then I iron it down, okay? Now at this point, all I want to do is I want to put a few tack stitches in to hold it down. I have to tie this knot here, because I don't need that many. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to put a few stitches in. And I'm just doing just plain old whip stitches in here. I may have to get some more thread. I don't think I have enough on here. So we're just going to go like this. I might make it to the end. And this was a fun project to do. It's like putting together a puzzle with all the different aspects of it, and then being able to stitch it any way you want when you're finished. And I like being fun with these, having those creative moments where you're like, hey, I can do this to this project. All right, so we're going to make it to the end. So we're just going to stitch this down. And I'm not really too concerned with how the back looks. I put them on racks. So we'll do a few more stitches here. If I can get this needle in. I'm not one for hand sewing, that is for sure. So I try to do everything by machine. I put the binding on with the machine. All right, so we've got that in there. I'm going to cut that off. So I put the binding on with the machine, and then when I got to the front, I just folded it over, okay, and stitched in the ditch all the way around it. All right. Now, the last part that I'm going to do is my creative genius here. I need to put eyes on the chicks and the bunny. And what I've got is have a whole bag of googly eyes. So my little chicks are going to get little googly eyes. And these just stick on. And they actually stick pretty good because I've got another one that still has its eyes after all these years. Now the bunny, I'm gonna have to use a little glue because he's got bigger eyes. I have to make sure I put them on right, otherwise I'll be upside down. So hopefully this glue will stick. We'll see. I just need a few drops. Needless to say, it's super glue, so my fingers are sticking to it. All right, so there it is. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it on its rack and it'll be all finished. Okay, so I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day stitching. All right, take care. Okay, so there it is, and it's on its little rack, which you can stand anywhere, and it's all finished.